This is the Kremlin game. So I'm just going to pull up the build viewer for our Kremlin player. And if we need to look up a build for somebody else, we can definitely do it over the course of the game. The big thing for our Kremlin player, we have our automated battery loading mechanism. So main battery loading time reduction at the cost of reduced main battery firing range in the Kremlin. I think in this game that actually is going to become very important. And then here's our captain. Now, is there a special captain? Zemensky. Right? Oven Chicken doesn't matter. Kuznetsov doesn't matter. So we should have Zemensky on this for the enhanced emergency repair specialist. You get 1% better repair party consumable cooldown time and 1% better damage control party consumable cooldown time. And then, of course, the party target, basic survivability, concealment expert, fire prevention, into adrenaline rush, and emergency repair expert. And then moving into our signals, we've got Juliet Charlie, so anti-dat, ramming flag, fire reduction, flood reduction, heal boosting, secondaries, interesting, speed boosting, and consumable reload. Pretty much everything you'd want to have on a Kremlin. All right. Those of you that are here, anything to add before we move on to the actual replay?
Nope.
All right. Well, welcome aboard, guys. As the replay goes, if there's anything that you would like me to pause on or something, I'm welcome to do so. Just let me know. I will pause it. You guys are about 20 seconds in the past, so just keep that in mind with the anticipation. And also, of course, I would like to throw this up on YouTube, so if you can, try to keep gamer words to a minimum or completely gone. So starting with MHG, Zulu or Zekis, do you guys want to walk us through your kind of deployment here and what you're thinking?
I can do the Zekis. So we initially look at the lineup, and we're seeing double Marseille. So we know there's going to be a push somewhere. So we're going to be playing pretty far back to start on the BD side while we figure out where it's at. And then Kleber and Z42 are going to be playing C. And we know there's only 2 DDs, so we're likely going to get it quickly. So we're going to go in for it. Other than that, Gearing headed out wide at A to see if we can spot a push out there. Shim going fast over at D to see if we can see the push out there. So right now we're just trying to figure out what's going on.
Okay. Fair enough. And then how about the EPOXY lineup? We'd like to maybe talk us through what you guys are thinking, maybe how you're reading MHG setup, all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So we had a pretty set idea for our map. Pretty much we wanted to have Napoli, both Marseilles, and the Shima go into D, and have the Napoli and both Marseilles kind of kite it out once they get to that like 9-10 line, right? Because we didn't quite want them to push immediately at the start of the game. Then we were going to completely give up C, and on the A cap we were going to have our Kremlin and Stalingrad going to go to that island that you can now see the Stalingrad kind of going to right now, and then have an Ohio and a Des Moines gearing smoke push down the 1 line. Now, somewhat significant here is that during this game, this Stalingrad that you see right now is supposed to stay on this island for the entire game, just to make sure that they can't actually backcap us. And you know, since Stalingrad is a much squishier ship than some of the other things in our push, he is meant to be the one that sits there. That's pretty much all it is for our lineup.
Okay.
We're pretty much, and then once we figure out what they're going to do, you'll see we're gonna have both Marseilles, the Napoli, and the Shima push too. So we have a 2-pronged push happening.
Okay. So, if we're watching this, keep in mind, guys, that this is not a KOTS replay where we can see both sides. Like when we cast, we are seeing it from MHG's perspective. So far, MHG has only seen one enemy ship. It's the Stalingrad. You would expect to see the Stalingrad because it's got terrible concealment.
So right now, I think my RPF as Z42 is on D. I think pretty soon it's going to swap over to Stalin. That's where we kind of get an idea that they're going super far out wide on D. We still don't know. We're assuming the gearing is on the one line, or at least ADD is on the one line with the other one headed on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now
that was
by
the Shima you were locating there in
Yeah.
mid-ish.
Yes, you'll see our Shimo is actually playing really aggressively right now because MHG's previous strategy on this map was to smoke a Des Moines up to that island straight left of the decap.
Yep.
And we wanted to try to spot there to make sure that couldn't happen.
And that's very smart. I actually covered a deep dive where MHG used their Venezia up in that smoke as well and completely hammered a destroyer that was detected on the way to D. So makes sense, smart decision to look at what they do and plan around it.
Yep. I think maybe not quite, but sometime soon is when we're going to see the Moskva at D again.
Okay.
And he's going to be fully stopped and not quite broadside, but yeah, here we go. Both Marseilles just shot at the Moskva, and I think we're going to get at least one Citadel on him, and that kind of solidifies him as our target on the decap.
Yeah. Now, when we were covering this live, I did not notice Tangerine's taking as much damage, so I can understand now. So he came out of that smoke, got spotted, turned south, and got caught out there, which is why, like you said, he's clearly the focus target.
Yep.
He got caught in that turn.
Now, one thing that's kind of significant is you're going to see on AB, I think somewhere around now is when our gearing eats a gearing torpedo. And you can't see it right now, but yeah, you'll see someone just pinged that area. So that's where he just ate a torpedo.
Yep.
And that kind of starts. He kind of panics after that and plays really safe. So our Des Moines gets really delayed in his smoke that's supposed to get him from that middle island to B.
And that's something I'm going to pause for a sec because there's a lot that's happening here, and that's one of the nice things with the KOTS deep dives is we can take the time to pause the game. Obviously, we know in the real life that can't happen. We can't just all agree to hit pause and talk for a sec. But really, there's a lot that's been going on. You've mentioned slowing down the advancement over on the AB line. I'm curious, why did you guys decide that would be the push side on this map?
Well, what you're going to see is that both sides will be the push side. However, we don't actually. The difference is that we wanted to wait a little bit on the Marseilles and Napoli side before starting our push, which you're going to see right now in the pause vision. We just went unspotted, and that's because we're all turning in right now. And it's purely for a reason that on the Ohio, Kremlin, Des Moines smoke Stalingrad side, it's actually pretty safe for us to just start the push from the beginning. And it takes a much longer time for that push to realize itself. So they pretty much do just need to start it from the beginning. Okay. Whereas we, on the Marseille double Napoli side, it can be very risky, especially if they do a very strong flank to the decap to just start pushing immediately. Because, you know, of course, all it takes is them to run more ships than we do to that side.
Yeah, in essence, if you want to be flexible, on the east it's hard to abort if you're hard in, whereas on the west it's easy to abort and hard to get going if you were too slow.
Exactly.
So it's just maximizing flexibility.
Well, and Kay, I know from doing a lot of clan battles with you and back in Kraken days, you know, we never wanted to get caught bow in on a flank, so it makes sense to be kiting out. You have that flexibility. The interesting thing is, when you look at the perspective from MHG, with you guys going dark and then making your turn, it almost looks like you're set up for kite. And is there a little bit of trickery attempt here to try to make MHG think you guys are kiting away so they can just go walk into D?
Anytime you have an option to do something that telegraphs something different, that is
exactly
the way to do it.
And actually, somewhat significant here is, I'm sure you saw very recently now, Zath, that we weren't actually the ones that made this strat, right? Because because I'm sure you saw that Resin ran pretty much the exact same thing just now against KSM. right?
Right.
And that's because on Thursday, Thursday, Resin scrimmed against us, and we actually got caught flat-footed by that exact thing. Both their Marseilles and the Napoli were turned out. They went unspotted for a little bit,
Uh-huh.
right? And we had rotated our Kleberts off of the cap by then because we were like, okay, this is their kiting flank, and then they
Yeah.
all turned in.
Oops.
So yep.
So I'd
Run
like to
away.
hear, if it's all right, I'd
Mm.
like to hear from MHG what their kind of expectation was on the east on this map at this time.
We didn't trust that you weren't going to push back in.
Hmm.
At this stage, I'm in the Z42. I'm thinking, okay, depending how fast the shim gets over the D, I can kind of might get over there and contest. As soon as, but we're kind of sussing it out. You see, Moskva turned out, Venezia turned out,
And you still have a battleship that's never been spotted over
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, we hadn't seen that, so we had no idea where the Kremlin was at, as well. So that was kind of like we're not really trusting that, and we're not going to contest it because we know if we, for Zath we scrimmed yesterday, and double Marseille push kind of rolled us, so we were just not trusting that at all.
That's another significant thing. MHG and us actually scrimmed together yesterday.
Oh,
And,
really?
something that we, me and Kate just found out is that MHG was actually running 3 different like substitutes because they didn't have most of their main roster there present for that day.
Okay.
So I actually also think that could be a significant factor that led us to how do I say this? Being a
sell
bit
us too short, big
overconfident.
boy.
No, but I do think we were overconfident going into it because, to be completely clear, we rolled MHG all 4
Oh,
games in the scrim yesterday.
Okay.
So that was, I honestly think, I think it was a very big factor, especially for that first game, where
Okay.
we even hit a strat that we thought was better on Shatter because we were overconfident. So
We were
that's
a
good
little
on
bit in our own
MHG.
hands. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Not
but
to-
I
not to
love
make excuses.
you guys bringing up those scrimming because that's what we don't see and again, I know that you guys are doing it because of my experience doing competitive, but I think a lot of the viewers don't understand the amount of time you guys put into it. If you guys don't mind, can you just real quickly ballpark how much time would you say you prepped for this day today over the past week?
Let me put it this way: I had Monday night off this week.
From your job or from this?
No, from the COTS practicing.
Yeah,
Monday
so
night, okay.
we spent about every day between Tuesday and Friday from 7 p.m. to 11 to 11:30 p.m.
Oh my god.
So on Tuesday night was just a complete night of creating strats. So that's all of us sitting on the WoW's tactics page for, hours.
I know that page well.
Yep. Wednesday was a scrim against Resin, followed by another 2 hours of strats. Thursday was a scrim against KSC, followed by once again an hour or 2 of strats, and then Friday was a scrim against MHG, followed by again multiple hours of strats.
So, all you that are viewing right now, I hope you have a better appreciation for the amount of work that teams put in. And these are, times the number of players, so keep that in mind too. We're talking about 8 people, 9 people on at once doing this, or more or less, depending on, people's availability, all volunteering their time to put on a show that all happens in 20 minutes or less in front of you. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right, shall we continue the replay?
Sure.
Let's.
Okay. We just saw K's Shimakaze torps come dangerously close to Curious Shadow's Shimakaze. So that does tell that should tell Curious Shadow and MHG, okay, we know the Shima's over here. General idea of where he was at least 3 or so minutes ago, right?
Yep. And we kind of get an idea that he's about to be in D. So you're gonna see the Z42 go through that gap. They hit D and then immediately turning around.
Mm-hmm.
And about this time, we're also putting the Klebert forward, because we're still trying to suss out where that Kremlin is at. We're pretty certain he's not at D, but we don't know exactly his position.
Okay.
And the Des Moines, one of the things that we learned in scrims on the AB push on this is that any cruiser MB like needs to get behind that island very quickly against the hard push. Otherwise, they just get caught out and die very, very quickly.
I just paused it for a sec. One other thing. You guys said earlier that Boy I Know Right in the Stalingrad was simply to sit there, drop anchor, and prevent a back cap push. But now he's coming out alongside the Kremlin.
I'm glad you saw that. This was our first mistake of the game.
Okay.
The Stalingrad was clearly from the start told that he had to stay on that island. One, because of his, squishiness, and two, because we know there's a Kleber in C, right? At this point, it's so easy for them to just get a free cap if he leaves. So this was very clearly like a point. This is honestly, I think, a game-changing point right here. Him leaving that island.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said now you had given him, or whoever, were you calling Big Boy, or was there another one?
I'm EPOXY's caller. Yes.
Okay. So you said you're sitting here, Stalingrad, don't move until told otherwise, and then he just goes on his own?
Yes. To be clear, it was made very clear from much earlier on that the Stalingrad has to be on that island. Though one thing significant is that, again, when you're in a King of the Sea game, pressure's pretty high, panic can happen, and of course, so this is around the time where I pinged our Kremlin to push, and because of the pressure, the Stalingrad might have also thought that it was his time too, right? So these are things that can absolutely happen. And I'm wondering, right, MHG, when you guys first saw them start to push, what was your immediate reaction? What was your this is the next step now that this is happening?
Immediate focus on Stalingrad as soon as we see him leave the island.
Exactly.
100%. And then I am talking. So with our calling, we got a couple of people who will coordinate with other people. So BD players, we coordinate with each other a lot, and the main caller just lets us do our thing. So I'm telling the Kleber right now, go north, back cap while farming the Stalin. Telling them just repeating at him to go. Because there's nothing back there.
Absolutely.
We know where all the DDs are at. Gearing has to be able to take B, and everything else is pointed south. So all he has to contend with is one Stalin raider, back cap A, and farm out Stalin. And
then switch to Kremlin, right?
Yeah.
And so if that Stalingrad had stayed on the island, what do you think? Would that have made it much harder for you guys to make
it would have made it. It would have made it slower, and we still would have sent the Kleber around. But it wouldn't have been able to farm while he's going up. And he had to take a much more conservative line.
Yeah.
So he didn't get spotted when he went to C4.
Right. He'd go up to A5 or something instead, right?
Yeah, he had to go pretty up there and cap at the top of A instead of more towards the middle. And then I'm also in position I'm able to get shots on him. Ohio's able to get shots to them. I think Ohio might even be shooting HE at him to keep him on fire. So it was full on burn out the Stalin right now.
It makes perfect sense. Zulu, I see you starting to smoke now. Calling attention back at the 10 line, we now see the Marseilles Napoli push. Obviously, that's kind of what you guys were thinking would happen over at MHG land. And we see the Shimakaze putting torps. And I called this and I said, when this kind of thing happens, the torps are sure there to do damage, but they're also there to try to slow you guys down. Was that impactful for you guys in EPOXY? Were you was that crucial that you were slowed down by these torpedoes?
Okay, so at this point in the game, right, this is around when I notice as the caller that our Stalingrad isn't where he's supposed to be, right? And our first plan wasn't actually, because we're to be fair, the Kremlin hasn't been spotted once this game yet, right? He gets spotted in the next like 5 to 10 seconds. So we are petrified of running around this island, right? Our
Okay.
goal here is to get to this island on the other side of decap and sit there because we were completely petrified that there was a Kremlin on the other side of it, right?
Sure.
But it's around this time where we realize, okay, we're actually gonna have to do something here.
Oh, yeah, without knowing for sure what's in front of us.
Exactly.
To answer the specific question, if I may, is not so much. It's more that the knowledge that there could be torpedoes anytime changes the path you take. At this point, the Shimakaze was in front, and I think those torpedoes were spotted coming in.
Yes.
But it's like, we know we can't cross broadside to these lanes and that sort of stuff, so the routes change so that the torpedoes aren't like a catastrophic surprise, even if they're a surprise.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense.
You'll also see later that it gets way scarier when the first Marseille dies, because right now we're actually not scared of torpedoes whatsoever, because me and the other Marseille are just alternating hydros right now.
Right.
Yep. And the cooldowns are such that you don't have a whole lot of downtime with the Marseille hydros.
Yep. And you two are together, and I comment on it later. You're going to be forced to split because of the torpedoes as well, which is not what you want to do, but it happens. No. Okay. I'm going to go back to normal speed now. I'm sorry.
Go for it. No, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. One other important thing here is the Kremlin is supposed to keep pushing, not stay on that island.
And he stopped. I remember
Yes.
Stopped and started reversing. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Who is he?
It's always
Oh,
tough
he's shooting
to
memes.
evaluate these decisions when you're like, no plan meets contact with the enemy, right? But at the same time, it's like, why are we off script, and what can we do to like get this different story to end in the same place and all that stuff? And that's really hard to parse out in the middle of the action.
No, absolutely, you're right, because you've got a plan. It didn't work out that way. Instead of trying to sit there, well, hold on, what happened? It's well, crap, this happened. We gotta go. We gotta do this here now. We gotta move here instead. So all those little dominoes start to fall.
And it's also, once again, one mistake that we've made a lot, and that we're actually making this game, is that we always want to have our caller on our main push side. Because it's always really important to have the guy who's making most of the decisions, you know, in the location where most of the decisions are being made, right? And that's something that we actually make a big mistake of this game. You know, technically both sides are push flanks, but I'm not on the right side.
One of them's tactical, and one of them is a little more rudimentary. Yeah.
Well, and this replay kind of highlights it, so you guys understand. If this Kremlin player, which is Corey, right? If Corey is the one that's calling for MHG, take a look on the other flank. He can't see anything other than just outlines of ships. He can't really see very easily headings and movements and stuff. It's there, but it's also not. So you get the feeling that you just right. You don't really get an idea of what's going on as much as clearly as the side that you're on, and that's kind of, I think, what you guys are kind of discussing there.
Yes.
Yeah. So in this case, our main caller in MHG is the Des Moines. So he's off in the corner of the map, making certain he doesn't get run down.
That was Nuke, isn't it? No, 8.
That's Nuke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Nuke. The strength of us, one of the things we have is we've got 3 people that can call on this lineup. And so we're just doing that right now. So Zekel's in the Ohio. He's managing he's actually managing the east flank more, letting Nuke just focus on his individual play. I'm working with Kleber to farm out the stall and get the ACAP. So we're able to coordinate a little bit like that, and we try to have people who can do that. You see Hiddle coming in. That first Marseille, yep, those torps coming in. But I'll just finish this up real quickly. So we want to have people who can coordinate that at that level spread across the map, so we can do that.
Now, go ahead.
One thing significant here is what you're looking at is I actually still am not fully sure what happened, but there was a point between us leaving this island at D because we decided that the other flank didn't seem to be doing so well. And right now, where one of our Marseilles lost what looks to be like 45k health
Yeah.
in like 15 seconds. I think, was that a Kremlin salvo?
That was the
MHG?
Kremlin salvo.
That was the Kremlin
They had,
Citadel. Yeah.
They had 1 citadel through their nose and 5 overpins.
Okay. I was wondering because I was honestly convinced here. Like I was like, this is a little bit risky because it's a Kremlin.
Hmm.
But I was until I looked to my right and saw him with no health, I was convinced that this push would, end up fruitful and we'd probably uh, get a lot of damage here and at least 1 kill because as you guys can see, this Moskva on the corner is still eluding us.
Yeah. I
He's
was just
running
gonna
from
comment on.
he's running from the shim.
Yeah,
And not detected right now, mind you.
he is
Yes.
detected right now, isn't
Oh,
he?
is he? Okay.
He is. Okay, so one thing that you can't actually see here, there's a Shimakaze in like H10.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember seeing K and what
Yeah.
he was doing. And, obviously he's trying to keep the Moskva spotted, get a lucky torpedo or 2 hit on the Kremlin. I mean, right, K? You're in here, so you might as well talk about
Yeah,
yourself.
I mean, it's making sure that it's kind of in for a penny, in for a pound, right? We've spent some time on this Moskva. We need that pick. We can't let him get away.
Mhm.
We need to convert the points, so he needs to stay lit. So I'm going to do that, and then if they happen to spend some time shooting me instead of the cruisers behind me, that's also helpful. I mean, because they do end up radaring, and I wasn't careful to stay out of the radar range. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to stay at a range where if they radar me, I don't care.
Okay.
And this is one point that the Moskva was able to turn back nose in.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't believe he did it. I mean, I looked at him like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I missed my shot here.
On the border like that, I mean, if you can do it, you may as well.
On the border is one of the only locations on the map where you can, depending on the speed of your ship and that type of thing, it can be really hard to hit a broadside target.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they haven't been on the border for very long and they still have some of their speed left. That's another.
Right.
Oh yeah, when it's fresh on there and they're full speed, it's
Yeah.
You don't fire all those turrets at once. You fire one and wait and see how they maneuver.
Yep.
Okay.
And at this point on the A side, this is something we talked about afterwards. I'm of the opinion that Kablair should have gone straight to A and baited the radar.
He could have because.
I mean, Stalingrad's up to low enough to where you just farm him out. But I think he should have gone straight to A when Stalingrad pushed and then farmed him out after we took the cap.
One Kleber reload booster could have killed him, and even then, we're talking about a Kremlin and a Stalingrad back turret against a Kleber.
Against the Kablair? Yeah,
Yeah.
have fun.
It's
And not to
worth
spoil this too much, but like this match was a game of very small margins, so
Yes.
anything
yeah.
you can do to put yourself another step ahead is another little bit that the other team has to do to secure that win from you.
Yep.
Well, and I love how your Kleber sat there. He knows the Stalingrad is there. He knows he's low health. I'm going to zoom in kind of on Boy No Right Stalingrad here. And he doesn't open up until Boy No Right DCPs. Because now all it is let's just get him on fire. And he's gone. And that's it. Because, as you said, it's a game of margins. And if Memes does go down here, that's a terrible trade at that point.
Yep.
He was quite low, too, if I remember right.
Yeah, so Memes is pretty low. He lives at about 2,000 health.
Mm-hmm.
So the Kremlin takes a shot and doesn't connect, and so he's able to grab the cap and then just stay away from people.
Right. Now, I asked for the Kremlin's perspective for a couple of reasons. One is it gives us an idea of, hey, look at all these torps that are just coming up his bum. He knows you're hot on his rear. At the same time, he's got a Marseilles and a Napoli now that he's got to worry about. His buddy Tangerines is going down, stuck bow in now. So...
And the last thing I want is him turning back into my falling flank.
Yeah, so that's exactly what the call was for the turn back in. right as the torps were coming in. So that was bad. That was unfortunate timing.
Well, it was very deliberate. The time was right for him to turn in, and I could tell.
Yeah, and we needed to use his health. He was a full health Kremlin before the torps. Like we needed to use his health there. 100%.
He's still pretty healthy. Because that's the Kremlin, you know?
So yeah, so he's turning those in. Ohio on the other side is kind of pushing up as well.
This is a moment here, by the way, on the AB flank where our Kremlin should have just gone, okay, I know A is going to be lost. There's nothing I can do about it. And kept pushing towards B. Because once again, he should be, if this strat had gone the way we had asked for it to, the Kremlin should be on the G line right now.
And he's already in torpedo hell, so being mobile isn't any worse.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It would actually probably been better since he could have hidden from the Z42 behind that island on like G4, G5.
He ends up nosing into me a minute or so, and I was very confused as to why he didn't just did this job.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, once again, me and the Napoli are in a position where we're wondering whether we need to push or not. And actually, something very significant here is that I don't know if we never noticed that it was a Shimakaze or something, but we called that Shimakaze a gearing the entire game.
That was me, yeah.
Yeah.
I never heard the other side clarify that they had, like, no, there's a gearing smoke here, but I just never saw 3 racks at a time, and I didn't...
Yeah, he was staggering them.
And it's the second that he touches the cap that we have to start moving.
Absolutely.
So our idea here was, since the other cap's push was going really badly, we were gonna have the Shimakaze just straight on nose in rush the Kremlin, and then me and Napoli had to start going towards the Venezia to try to kill him.
All right, we're gonna look from the Kremlin perspective, because this is the part that I didn't catch. I was looking at the other side of the map right here.
It's a very important part to the game.
Yeah, this nearly got you the game.
Yes, as you will see. So we have this. So this right here, and this is actually a crossfire if you see, because if he goes fully nose into the Shima, which you'll see him do here, he's about to eat a quad sit from me in the Marseilles.
Yeah.
Because Marseille can actually do that.
Oh.
That was the Ven.
And there we go. I just took about 40k health off of him in one salvo, which actually almost let our Shimakaze survive if it wasn't for the Venezia salvo.
Yeah, that was we see you guys on 999 when the Vents took out K.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know, if I knew you were going to hit him that hard, I could have started evasive maneuvers sooner.
I should have said it, yeah.
And it was one of those things where, like, so many things in that moment could have gone slightly different, and this moment coming right up now. And it would have been a different outcome.
Here, what should have happened is me and the Napoli should have both gone forward in front of
Big
the
Boy shouldn't have stopped.
However, me getting that salvo on the Kremlin meant that I had to turn left because, of course,
it was
Marseille,
one of the other...
You had to turn your ship.
Yes, so Marseille guns, of course, don't do great from the back of your ship, right?
No.
So, this actually meant that it took us much longer to try to kill this Venezia since I wasn't in the front.
Yeah, so as soon as we saw the Marseille go south of that island, we're telling them that to go for the ram on the Napoli. Just go. You can't sit there. You'll get pincered and you'll die.
Go for the ram. Okay, so Holsch is going for the ram. Now, what's crazy is you look at the scoreboard chat. Remember, this is happening in mere seconds as we're talking about this. This is the first of many very close games today, which is just insane. And I'm tired, and y'all are tired, and thank you again for hanging out. So these torpedoes, man, I was convinced Holsch was dead here. I was completely convinced he was going to take all of these Napoli torps. And just barely dodges, I think, 1 or 2, which is enough to keep him alive.
Lots of times it's hard to tell where the torpedoes actually are when you're spectating. They don't render quite as updated as the ships.
Well, and I've been running into desync like crazy this season, and I don't know if it's my connection or just whatever. I'm gonna try something tomorrow, try to fix that and see. And then here Raptor and I are both like, okay, we know the rear torps are coming. Holsch makes Inky, which means nothing, right? I mean, proxy spot doesn't matter.
Probably just a panic hit.
Yeah, it was.
And
everything.
we can already see you're trying to get your rear guns to bear while you're turning. You know these torpedoes are coming. 999 or 996. Guys, 996 to 960. I think in the coverage at this point I'm like 99999 because it's just look how close you are.
And what Big Boy said earlier about margin, like if Colbert had been a second later on A or Shima been a second later taking B, that's it. As soon as you guys get the Ohio Kremlin kill, you guys that ends the game on points right there.
Yep.
That's right.
So it was literally down to a second.
And this is a game 2, so that would have forced a game 3.
Exactly. And there's, again, so many factors. Like, if the Kremlin had pushed earlier, that Ohio might have died earlier, right? If the Stalingrad had stayed there, maybe ACAP would have taken longer to take.
Now, by if that Kremlin, you mean if your Kremlin, if Moose on the loose,
yes.
and okay, got it.
Yes. If the Shima hadn't thought to go around on D, this would have been, a comfortable win. And who knows, right? Maybe if I hadn't taken the shot, K still would have killed the Kremlin, and we could have killed the Venezia, right? I honestly have no clue if that, that left turn for the shot on the Kremlin actually cost us the game or not.
Well, on the real trick to it, you can talk about like how to do these little things better, but the real trick is to not put yourself in a position where it feels like it's almost out of your hands, like it's down to the little instincts in the end instead of your plan.
Yep.
Yeah. 999 to 960. And it's just going to tick just before Holsch takes the torpedo off the bum. There it is. What a game. What a finish. What was the how were the various voice chats like after that game?
We were kind of, I honestly thought that once you guys killed the Kremlin, it was over. So I was mentally prepared to go to a game 3 when Ben finished off the show.
Yeah, the crazy thing, I didn't even know that the score was like 4 points from away from y'all winning.
No, actually, we didn't either. We didn't either. Like that. When the Napoli got the torps off on the Venezia, and some of our dead players were looking at it, we were already celebrating, and then we saw the 999 right before it happened.
Oh,
and, yeah.
There were a couple of games where I actually had to look back at the stream that was 5 minutes delayed to make sure I knew who won the game. Like, that was that close.
Yeah.
And you guys finish, and you see the result, Team Alpha brought, whichever one won the game, and you're just sitting there like, huh?
Because I was watching the score at the end, like, do I need to just torp rush the Kremlin and hope for the best? Or do I need to play safe? So I saw as soon as it hit 999 in EPOXY's favor, and I'm just like, out game 3. Start looking away, and then suddenly game's not over. What?
But as you can see, right, Seth, at the end of the day, even though, our desperate plays at the end did get us closer, you can very much tell the difference between MHG strat, which was executed kind of the way they wanted it to be, versus ours, where I was able to point you out exactly the mistakes that were made from even just our base plan, right? Like, it wasn't like some things that they did forced us, just mistakes happened that weren't even supposed to happen. So it's just, really nice for MHG, and like a very good job to them for just executing exactly what they had planned out.
Especially in terms of the patience they demonstrated in some of these roles, where it doesn't look great, but they were patient, and they waited, and then they were in the right place at the right time later.
What I love, though, is first of all the sportsmanship between both of your teams coming in and talking through this. Thank you so much. This was awesome. This is the first time I've been able to assemble groups of people from both teams to talk through things, which is so helpful because, without knowing, hey, that Stalingrad wasn't supposed to push, the Kremlin was supposed to keep going. Those two little things where they seem innocent enough at the start, you don't know are mistakes until way later.
Yes,
Actually, I never
exactly.
even thought of it was a mistake the whole time.
Yeah, and that forces, without the Stalin pushing forward,
Mhm.
that forces us to, the Colbert and myself and the 42, to basically have to torp rush the pair of them. Because we didn't have good kill pressure on anything in B. The Ohio, the Gearing, the Des Moines, we didn't have kill pressure there. All the kill pressure on D was if they have to push into us or we have to get turned around, that's just going to take a while. So that would have been our only option, would have been the torp rush them, because they didn't have destroyer cover. Des Moines was not in position to support them, which may have worked, but it's also, it's a gamble.
Absolutely. And that Stalingrad leaving made it so that you didn't even have to take that risk. You could just comfortably get a kill.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So question then, since you guys were talking about a mistake, MHG, was there a mistake on your guys' side in your planning that maybe we didn't catch?
A couple things that we discussed later we could have done better. One thing was, as I said earlier, Colbert just taking A first and then farming out Stalin. But the 42, I was like right here. I'm trying to figure out where to rotate, and just finding that position and then realizing that the Kremlin's actually going to be on the A side near the Stalin, because that's the only place left he could be. So instead of going that direction here, I should have been going more with the Colbert and got in a position where I could farm out the Stalin now, as opposed to 30 seconds, minute later from now.
You actually put yourself at a pretty bad spot when you made that turn through that channel, because if K was right there and spotted you, I mean, there's 2 Marseilles and Napoli that could spank you.
On the flip side, we've got a Vin sitting right there. So I would have been happy with that, actually. Because Holsh has been hitting his shots the entire COTS. Like, props to Holsh. He's absolutely done work. And he was a merc too.
Match, though.
So he was a random merc we picked up in the COTS Discord.
Seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. And
like literally, I need somebody else. Can anybody play? And he's like, yeah, I guess I could go.
I think he posted, and we picked him up specifically to play Vins. And we see why we picked him up to play Vins. Because the NABR game we watched earlier, Zaf, he slapped out 3 DDs that game. And without him doing that, that game would have been a lot closer, a lot more difficult.
I did miss some crucial shots early on Shima, because whenever you had your engine knocked out, I completely missed that your engine was completely out.
Oh. You're talking about K's engine.
Yeah. Whenever the Moskva had radared him, because I only got like 2,300 off of him on 2 salvos.
You missed forward.
Would you have still charged the Kremlin as much as you did if you had lost a little bit more health there?
He would have had to at the end of the day, right?
It depends. I mean, it's hard for me to say one way or the other on that.
He probably would have just had to get closer, and because with the health that he did have, he had the chance of trying to go for the
Well, I would have thrown the torp sooner if I was lower on hit points, but then like I didn't even realize actually until this debrief kind of thing that Big Boy had got him so much lower in the process.
Yeah.
So it probably wouldn't have made that difference.
But honestly, I'm wondering, Kay, I actually don't know how many torps he would have eaten, so I actually have no clue if you would have gotten the
from further away though.
Anyway.
I mean,
no, but
if you didn't do that, it's hard to tell.
So that's there's like so many factors that just affect it so much.
Yeah, and he probably wouldn't have turned as hard either, with you being a little further away, because he was turning out as you were turning out. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because
he was turning hard into me, and I assume that was an evasive action, right? Like if he didn't turn into me, then I could have launched those torps and just had him, and turned out and smoked before I got into proxy spotting range.
Yeah.
True.
Sconce, go eat dinner.
Forced me in.
Sconce is here saying hello, and that was a hell of a match. It was. Go eat dinner.
Yeah, it was a really good match.
I'm curious. I just want to see one last shot at K's rush on the Kremlin, because that was just You got him at the right time, right when he was, heading northward.
I particularly, I just really want to know, because that could have been, if I had just turned out the way I was supposed to, and not seen the broadside on the Kremlin, I honestly don't know. Would K have just traded the Kremlin?
Yeah.
And
well, because I told you guys like smoke and go get the Venezia because we need a pick, right? And then I'll rush the Kremlin.
Yeah, but I still think he gets them. If he had all three racks in the right spot.
So potentially the only time we're getting a quad sit on a Kremlin actually loses you the game.
One thing I noticed in the replay, watching Kremlin's perspective, he should have swapped the HE. He should have gun feeder, and he was running the legendary mod. He should have swapped to HE there. He would have gotten it in there, and that he could have even just stopped the torp run there.
So you're saying switch to HE in order to break the torpedoes instead of, oh my god, there's something in front of me, I must kill it now.
He brought Special K down pretty dang low.
He did.
And so with HE probably would have killed him there.
Well, it was the Venezia as well, but it was chipping down by pieces, so the torps would have gotten the water either way, I think, unless he destroyed a rack.
And
it's just a matter of how early you force them out.
And my very front turret got blocked by the island too, so if that would have been 100 meters further back, that could have gotten all of my turrets, and that would you wouldn't have gotten any torps off.
Well, that's just the thing. Every time you were one different thing away from winning, the other team was also one different thing away from putting you two different things away from winning.
And if you were 100 meters back, you would have taken all the Napoli torps.
Yeah, and again, so many factors, because if K had actually not even used his torpedoes and just smoked up when he was 2 to 3 kilometers away, and
and then you guys go get the Venezia.
We could have, one, gotten the Venezia, or two, right? If you had smoked up right as the Kremlin went for the turn in towards you, right?
Yeah. Just both
me and Napoli would have just been able to kill him, and we wouldn't have needed the Venezia, right? Yeah. So I'm actually, let's see here, right? How many torpedoes would K have hit on the Kremlin if it was?
So I paused it here right before Big Boy's hit. Okay, so you're at the Kremlin's at just under 64,000 hit points and burning. Heal available though. I'm surprised he didn't pop his heal the moment he took damage, knowing what's coming. But in any case, that happens. All right, we're gonna watch K take these fire off the torps.
Oh jeez.
There's my salvo. Okay, let's see how many torpedoes.
Okay. We're gonna count the number that hit and the number that hit the dead hull. Now keep in mind, saturation's a thing, so it could change torpedo damage. But looks like
1, 2, 3. Looks like 6 at least. Because it only took 2 to kill him, but
right.
K would have hit. Looks like 3 to 4. Looks like 4 to 5 more. Yeah.
5. I think you would have hit 5.
And there's still another rack coming.
Yeah, because K had
6.
Another rack here.
6. There's one in the back here.
So that's 6 he would have missed if he didn't stop because he sank.
True.
He might have gone forward and hit another one instead.
And then here's the next rack coming right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think K would have gotten the kill anyway. So actually, I think me turning for that shot cost us the game.
Wow.
As weird as that is to say.
I mean, it's weird to say that, but 9 times out of 10 or more, that's the right play to take that shot.
Yes.
I think he only eats one of those if he's still afloat and maneuvering too. But still,
I still think
at 60, 70K, that should be enough.
At a glance, it wasn't for sure because he was bow in though, right? You don't know.
I'm screenshotting this death pick right here. Look at this.
I just had this I look to my side. I see K on I think it was you had just taken the hit that had taken you to 1.5 K, and I was like, oh my god, I can take this shot, and I wasn't sure if you were gonna get the kill or not, so it was just kind of the only thing I could think of.
I wasn't expecting to survive it anyway, so in my mind, you guys needed to get the Venezia regardless. But then after I had the opportunity to get the Venezia dodged, I thought, man, I should have launched those sooner and just gotten out of there.
Because I could have gotten a second shot on broadside Kremlin if you had just shot them at like 3 or 4 kilometers, right? Like there's so many things that could have affected the game.
And you can see your wake, the hard turn that you're forced to make, forces you to go behind the island instead of going up with Kobe's Napoli.
Exactly, and that is just so significant, too.
But at this point, do we know that Holsch is going to go north of the island? That's the other kind of question you have to ask yourself, right? You're at.
Look at the amount of health, and I think there's a pretty clear answer here, isn't there? Right.
I'm not even certain he gets the turn off going south.
True, because his rudder is to the left. His rudder is already to the left though, so it's it would take him a while to turn. He has to be like, we knew he was going left here.
Okay.
Yeah, I was playing going left. Now the one bad thing is my left side torpedo rack was knocked out. Of course.
One
because I would have gotten
thing
torps
too,
off, but
is you'll see it looks like the Napoli was so focused on hitting torpedoes on this Venezia that his guns weren't fully turned and ready for the drive run.
You can pre-aim them and Control X lock them, right?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
So
all of these things when you're not in the heat of the moment is like, oh,
yes,
this is what you could have done.
So he shoots these torps. If his guns had been turned, the Venezia gives him a full broadside right about now.
Yeah.
And you know, even his back turret here, if it had been turned, would have gotten a kill on the Venezia.
Yeah, this was in place.
Yep.
Pre-aiming your turrets in just any joust is a huge thing, and it's not a thing that you really think about with like a Venezia joust, but like,
especially when everybody's screaming at that point, because you didn't see it in the battle. There's so much going on.
Yeah.